The word democracy echoes down to us from ancient Athens, a concept often idealized as the purest form of popular rule. Modern readers assume it meant a system like our own, only more direct. But the sources suggest something far more radical and far more exclusive. Athenian democracy was a system built for some, at the expense of many. According to Aristotle, a citizen was one who shared in the administration of justice and in the holding of office. This definition was narrow. Only adult males born to two Athenian parents could claim this right. Women, resident foreigners known as metics, and the vast population of enslaved people were entirely excluded. This was not a democracy of all people, but a democracy of a select, privileged club. Modern political systems are built on representation. We elect officials to make decisions on our behalf. The Athenians, however, would have found this concept alien. They practiced a direct democracy, a system with no professional politicians and no entrenched political parties in the modern sense. The sovereign body was the citizenry itself. Citizens did not elect representatives to a parliament. They were the parliament. Every major decision, from declaring war to raising taxes, was put to a direct vote. The heart of this system was the assembly, the ecclesia. This was where thousands of citizens gathered to decide the fate of their city. The assembly met on a hill called the Nix, roughly 40 times a year, to debate and vote on legislation, foreign policy, and state finances. Thucydides describes tense meetings where the fate of entire cities hung in the balance, decided by the collective will of those present. Modern historians note that attendance could fluctuate, but at critical moments, over 6,000 men might participate, a staggering feat of mass political engagement. In these vast assemblies, there were no secret ballots for most decisions. Voting was a public physical act. The herald would call for a show of hands, and officials would attempt to judge which side had the majority. This cheritonia, or raising of hands, meant that a citizen's vote was visible to his neighbors. This encouraged active persuasion and oratory, as speakers had to sway the crowd before them in real time. But it also introduced immense social pressure, making it difficult to vote against a popular or intimidating proposal. While we associate democracy with elections, the Athenians viewed them with suspicion. They believed elections favored the rich, famous, and well-spoken. Their solution was sortition, the selection of officials by lottery. Chance, they believed, was more democratic than choice. According to Aristotle's Constitution of the Athenians, hundreds of civic positions, from magistrates on the council of 500 to officials overseeing the markets, were filled by drawing lots from a pool of eligible citizens. This practice was designed to prevent corruption and the consolidation of power by any single elite faction, ensuring that, in theory, any citizen could be called upon to rule. However, the Athenians were not dogmatic idealists. They recognized that competence mattered, especially when the city's survival was at stake. For the most critical military positions, they abandoned the lottery. The 10 strategoi, or generals, were elected annually and could be re-elected indefinitely. Figures like Pericles held the post for years, wielding immense influence through their military authority and rhetorical skill. This was a pragmatic concession. While any citizen could be trusted to manage a festival, only a proven expert could be trusted to lead an army. The Athenians were willing to risk elitism when faced with the alternative of military incompetence. This radical participation came at a cost. For a farmer or a craftsman to spend a day at the assembly or serving on a court meant a day of lost wages. To solve this, the Athenians introduced a revolutionary concept: state pay for political participation. This policy, known as mistos, ensured that even the poorest citizens could afford to take part in the democratic process. Modern historians note that this was a crucial innovation. Democracy wasn't free. It was subsidized by the state, transforming it from a privilege of the leisured rich into a workable reality for the common man. The legal system was as radical as the political one. Justice was not dispensed by professional judges, but by mass juries of fellow citizens. These courts, or dikasteria, were enormous. A typical jury might consist of 201 or 501 citizens, chosen by lot for the day. For major public trials, the number could be even larger. The rationale was simple: a jury of hundreds was nearly impossible to bribe. The consequence, however, was that legal arguments often gave way to emotional appeals as litigants tried to win the sympathy of a massive, anonymous crowd. In these chaotic courts, there were no professional lawyers to argue a case. Litigants were expected to speak for themselves. This placed an enormous premium on rhetorical skill. A citizen's life, property, or reputation could depend on his ability to deliver a persuasive speech. While speechwriters, or logographoi, could be hired to compose an argument, the litigant had to deliver it himself, pretending the words were his own. In a world without lawyers, the power of persuasion was the ultimate legal weapon. Perhaps the most notorious feature of Athenian democracy was ostracism. Once a year, the assembly could vote to exile a citizen for 10 years, without trial or any specific charge. Each voter would scratch a name onto a shard of pottery, an ostracon. If at least 6,000 votes were cast, the man whose name appeared most often was forced into exile. The purpose was not to punish a crime, but to neutralize a politician who had become too powerful or influential, thereby preventing the rise of a tyrant. It was a purely political tool, a democratic defense mechanism. This deep-seated fear of one-man rule was the crucible in which democracy was forged. The memory of the Pisistrated tyrants, who had ruled Athens in the 6th century BCE, was a civic trauma. The sources suggest that many of democracy's institutions were explicitly designed to prevent any individual from accumulating too much power. The lottery, limited terms of office, and ostracism were all checks against the ambition that Athenians believed led inevitably to tyranny. Democracy was born from the collective memory of its opposite. In principle, the law guaranteed equality, or isonomia, for all citizens. In the assembly and the courts, the vote of a poor farmer was theoretically equal to that of a wealthy aristocrat. The sources, however, paint a more complex picture. While legal equality existed, social and economic inequality was profound. Wealthy, well-educated citizens with powerful family connections still held a significant advantage in the political arena. They had the leisure to cultivate rhetorical skills and the resources to influence public opinion. Equality before the law did not translate to equality of influence. Women occupied a paradoxical position within this system. While they were central to the religious and social fabric of the city, they were politically invisible. Excluded from the assembly, the courts, and all public office, they had no formal voice, and yet, a woman's status was essential. Only a child born to an Athenian mother could be a citizen. In this way, women were the silent gatekeepers of the democracy, present and vital to its continuation, but utterly powerless within it. The leisure that enabled thousands of male citizens to engage in politics was built on a foundation of unfreedom. A significant portion of the population of Attica consisted of enslaved people, who performed much of the agricultural, domestic, and industrial labor. Modern historians emphasize that it is impossible to separate Athenian democracy from the institution of slavery. The freedom of the citizen to deliberate on the nix was directly subsidized by the forced labor of the non-free. Athens's political experiment was underwritten by mass exploitation. In such a direct democracy, public speaking was not merely a skill. It was the primary political weapon. Persuasion was everything. A powerful orator could sway the assembly to declare war, pass a law, or exile an opponent. This gave rise to a vibrant and often volatile culture of political speech. It also created the figure of the demagogue, a leader who, according to critics like Thucydides, appealed to the people's emotions and prejudices rather than their reason, often for personal gain. The ability to command the crowd was the most direct path to power. Not everyone in the ancient world viewed this system as an ideal. Many of Athens' most brilliant minds were its fiercest critics. In his Republic, Plato condemned democracy as an unstable and chaotic form of government, dangerously close to tyranny. He argued that it empowered the ignorant masses and silenced the wise, leading to flawed decisions driven by emotion and appetite. To these critics, rule by the people was little more than mob rule. The decisions made by the assembly often had life and death consequences, particularly in matters of war. The citizens themselves voted to launch military campaigns, dispatch fleets, and dispatch armies. Thucydides' account of the Peloponnesian War is a chilling chronicle of how democratic debate could lead to catastrophic military blunders, such as the ill-fated Sicilian expedition. The assembly frequently made decisions based on incomplete information, swayed by optimistic or misleading speeches, with the voters themselves bearing the ultimate cost on the battlefield. A profound contradiction lay at the heart of the Athenian state. While it practiced a radical form of freedom at home, it ruled a maritime empire with an iron fist. Athens demanded tribute and obedience from its so-called allies in the Delian League. brutally suppressing any city that attempted to revolt. This imperial democracy championed political liberty for its own citizens while denying it to others. Freedom in Athens was paid for by the subjugation of its neighbors. No event exposes the tensions within Athenian democracy more starkly than the trial of Socrates in 399 BCE. Accused of impiety and corrupting the youth, the philosopher was tried before a jury of 501 citizens. He was condemned to death not by a tyrant, but by a democratic vote. Plato's account of the trial reveals the limits of free speech and intellectual dissent when faced with the judgment of a mass jury. The execution of its most famous philosopher remains a dark stain on democracy's record, a moment when the system turned against itself. Today, Athenian democracy is often invoked, but rarely understood in its full complexity. It was a system that achieved an unprecedented level of popular participation, yet was built upon exclusion and exploitation. It championed equality among citizens while producing stark inequalities of influence. The sources show us a system that was simultaneously radical, brilliant, unstable, and brutal. Democracy was never simple, and the Athenian experiment serves as a powerful reminder that the pursuit of government by the people has always been fraught with profound contradictions. Athenian democracy was radical, flawed, exclusive, and powerful. It gave citizens a voice, but not everyone. It inspired freedom and enabled empire. Understanding it means understanding that democracy has always been a work in progress, shaped by people, limits, and choices. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us and helps us create more awesome content.